Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Devil Sharingan Naruto had harem with Kurenai and Fem Haku Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Uzumaki Kushina was not the happiest of women and she hadn't been for a long time. The day she was giving birth to her daughter, Naomi, a masked man claiming to be Uchiha Madara threatened to kill both her and her child before ripping the kyuubi from her stomach. Her husband Namikaze Minato had fought off the masked man before going into this mad rant about how his daughter would be the greatest weapon Konoha ever had. You don't get it, Kushina, I never loved you. You were a great, that's all, a means to sire me an heir I could control. Now with you out of the way, I can raise this girl to be my ultimate weapon and Konoha will be the strongest shinobi village that ever existed. Something inside Kushina became cold and dark that day and it only grew larger as the village, Konohagakure village in the Hidden Leaves, demanded her child be killed for having the kyuubi sealed within her or made into a weapon. Hitaki Kakashi and Jiraiya didn't take too kindly to their sensei, student being killed and had attempted to kill Naomi on multiple occasions though were foiled time and time again either by the Sandaime Hokage, Mitarashi Anko, Inuzuka Sume, or herself. Mitarashi Anko had been the only one of her three students to stand by and support her during her time of need. Being an outcast herself, Anko knew all about being hated and disliked for something out of her control and thus had stuck by her sensei. The same could not be said for her other students, Azuki Yugao and Yuhi Kurenai. As she found out from Anko, Kurenai had always been jealous of Kushina for having Minato's attention while she didn't. Instead she had decided to get under the Uzumaki's wing and learn things secretly about Minato in hopes of wooing him away. When that didn't work, Kurenai had tried multiple times to poison Kushina. Thankfully the kyuubi had made the poisons relatively harmless thus foiling Kurenai's plans. Upon finding out the kyuubi was sealed within her daughter, she had attempted to place Kushina in a genjutsu and kill Naomi secretly in honor of the Yondaime but failed as Kushina got out the genjutsu easily before threatening the Chunin, at the time, with death. Her other student, Azuki Yugao, was one she had high hopes for, someone she taught the art of kenjutsu, so to see her betray her was annoying to put it nicely. Yugao stated she wanted no part with Kushina or her demon spawn, as she called Naomi, wanting no deal with the village outcasts so it wouldn't damage her reputation with any of her higher-up officers. Kushina's response: kicking her quite literally. The ones who hit her hardest was the betrayal of three of her best friends in Uchiha Makoto and Hyuga Hitomi, and Nara Yoshino, who when Kushina asked for support simply stated that in Uchiha, Hyuga didn't assist such lower-ranking class people such as her. Yoshino simply said he would be too bothersome and she had more to worry about than her and her little hellspawn. Kushina, being a censor, immediately went to see if they were being affected by any seals to make them switch up. There were none. Her last loyal best friend, one Inuzuka Sume, who had been the redhead's best friend far longer than either of the others, had stood by Kushina's side till the end, regardless of the fact a few of her clansmen died in the kyuubi's rampage or not. She claimed the Inuzuka clan would have her back through whatever she needed, and as such they did. The Sandaime, Sarutobi Hiruzen, while angered and saddened at the death of his wife, asked just happened during the birth. She had told him everything, excluding Minato's madman rant, about the man claiming to be Madara, Minato being taken by the Shinigami, how his Sharingan could control the Nine Tails. Once he understood, he did not harbor any ill will against her daughter. However, that was only 3 people in a clan that supported her. They were against any entire village that wanted her daughter dead or used as a weapon. As a result, she had grew exceptionally cold towards anyone that showed her child malice. Her kind side had only been seen by her child, Anko, Sume, or Sarutobi. Growing up, Naomi had been influenced by her mother a lot, often acting like her so much she developed an ice-cold personality as well. Kushina had made sure her daughter was well trained, teaching her how to wield a sword, jutsu, and even the Uzumaki clan's chakra chains which were black. When Sarutobi questioned her on this, she gave him a reply that instantly shut him up. When my daughter finally goes to the academy, do you think they'll give her a fair chance like the rest of those brats? No, they'll do any and everything in their power to make sure she fails and gets held back. I won't let that happen. Once Naomi had finally started going to the academy, Kushina was right. The instructors and teachers had done their best to embarrass her, asking questions no Chunin would be able to answer, let alone academy student. When she often asked Naomi about her classmates, she only had one thing to describe them. Losers. And she was right. Her classmates were quite frankly losers in all of the sense. Inuzuka Kiba, the son of Sum, believed he was the shit, and thought he was an alpha of sorts. He had attempted to talk to Naomi multiple times though was blown off multiple times. Nara Shikamaru, the son of Yoshino, was the definition of a slacker though she knew all Nara men were incredibly smart. He just didn't do anything right as far as anything. All he did was sleep and stare at clouds. Akamaiki Choji was a fat kid who just ate chips all day and got bullied because of his weight, plus he was friends with the Nara boy. Yamanaka Ino and Haruno Sakura, or as Anko and Naomi called them, the Banshee sisters, were nothing more than fangirls who just fought over one boy, never trained or exercised, and spent time stalking said boy or attempting to make themselves look pretty. All three thought they would easily be good one-night stands growing up. Uchiha Sasuke, son of Makoto, the said boy of the girl's affection, was a emo, duck-haired brat who thought the world owed him something. Ever since his sister Itako, female Itachi, murdered the Uchiha clan save him, the village had babied the boy silly, giving him stuff for free, giving him free lessons on jutsu and everything else. He had tried to show up Naomi multiple times only to get beaten quite savagely, earning the hate of his fan club and the people of Konoha even more, not that she cared. Hyuga Hinata, daughter of Hitomi, was easily one of the worst clan heirs Kushina had ever seen. The girl had no confidence, no self-esteem, she flinched at everything and fainted at almost nothing. She had even heard from Anko that Hitomi herself was planning on disowning the girl soon if she didn't start acting like a real Hyuga, as she put it. Aburame Shino was simply a member of the Aburame clan and one who was disliked by the entire class simply for being a loser who plays with bugs. Naomi had excelled despite the civilian councils and instructors' best plots and became Kunoichi of the Year. Not that the title meant much considering it wasn't even a race, seeing how she bested her classmates in literally everything. Hiruzen, seeing how anyone else would take the chance to kill Naomi if she was placed within their team, he gave her dual senseis in Anko and Kushina. This of course caused conflict as the Shinobi Council and Civilian Council demanded Sasuke get 2 senseis or they would have a serious problem. Sarutobi's response was to pull up the long list of crimes they had committed under his and Minato's rule. That of Kaus had sent them running out of his office in a flash. Though all of that anger and malice could not describe how Kushina was currently feeling right now. They had been given a C-ranked mission to guard a bridge builder named Tazuna and protect him from a grimy businessman named Gato who was oppressing Wave Country. The mission had been turned to an A-ranked as they had been attacked by the Demon Brothers who they disposed of easily. However, their real problem came as a group of 10 men surrounded them, all grinning evilly. They however didn't come for the bridge builder but instead for Naomi, or more precisely the Kyuubi's chakra, in order to beat and kill him, whoever he was. The three had put up a good fight, but considering each man the chakra amount of a 2-tailed biju, tailed beast, they didn't stand a chance. And thus there as we are now. Their client Tazuna dead, having his stomach cut wide open. A look of horror on his face. Naomi, Anko, and her on the ground glaring at the men as they surrounded them. Oh, and it was raining. Oi boss, we should have some fun with them before we take the Kyuubi's chakra. It's been a while since we last have seen any females. One of them said, earning approval from the others. Their bodies are appealing, especially the older redheads. Fine, we'll make 'em scream our names first. Might even keep them around as pets afterwards. The leader, a man with shaggy black hair and a tannish brown skin color, said. Idiots. A new arrival said. Anko, Kushina, and Naomi's eyes all widened as a man standing at 6 feet 7 came into the clearing. An annoyed look plastered on his scarred face. His skin was snow white, he also wore a dark gray kimono with markings around it. He had spiky, dirty white hair along with a pair of horn-like protrusions extending from either side of his forehead along with pupilless white eyes. Ao-sama, I thought you would be waiting for us to arrive back at that human's place. A red-haired man said. That was the plan, however, I came due to the fact something rubs me the wrong way here and I don't like it at all. The man said. Do you have a problem with that? Of course not. So that's the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Doesn't look like much. He insulted, causing Naomi to growl. Boss, can we have the two women? They look so defying, I just wanna break 'em. A brown-haired asked. Ao waved his hand, you can do whatever you want with them, I only care for the Nine Tails chakra. What the hell do you even want with the Kyuubi anyway? Anko shouted. Since I see no harm in telling you, since you aren't going to be telling anyone anyway, I was once a feared general of the Shinju Council, worshipped by many and feared by all. He took a moment to emphasize the point by spreading his arms, to which all three girls rolled their eyes. Then his face turned into a scowl, until that damned Uzumaki Naruto came around, favored by those whores they called goddesses. They wanted to bestow upon him the power only an elite such as myself had the right to claim. The Ashirado no Kami, a title known to everyone that instantly inspired fear into the hearts of everyone, commanding beasts only known to the one who wields the title. Kushina, Naomi, and Anko's eyes widened. Uzumaki. That brat walked in and beat me while I was weak. Even then he was only able to escape thanks to those bitches intervening and saving his miserable life. They locked me away so there would be no one to challenge him. By now, by going to the place he gained such power, I will reign supreme and take my rightful place as ruler of the gods. He finished, earning roars of approval from his henchmen. In the trees, a figure in the trees nearby watched as the embassy delusional man ranted about his so-called claim to glory being stripped from him. His right eye, being the only visible one, had 3 tomo in it that were spinning slowly. God, he's such a sore loser, and the tales he sprout are nothing more but words from a buffoon. The figure said. His eye went to the 3 kunoichi. They look like bitches. Depending on how they act will decide whether I entertain myself in this dimension or simply revive Tazuna, wipe their minds of me, and head back home. And now Kyuubi, your chakra is mine. Ao shouted from below. TCH, can't never wait, can you? With that, the figure jumped down from his hiding spot. You know, that'd be a good story if half of it was true and not out the mouth an egotistical, power-hungry moron like yourself. Everyone looked at the new arrival as he stood up, standing at a height of 6 feet 3. He wore a black cloak that was being blown by the heavy wind, dark spiky red hair that completely covered the left side of his face. Like how he had 2 horns sprouting from either side of his forehead, though were surrounded by the spiky hair, giving him a feral look. Dark fingerless gloves, a gray, long-sleeved, collared shirt, black pants, black shinobi boots, and a black belt which held a brown shuriken holster. His right eye still having the 3 tomo, though they weren't spinning yet. Little did they know, the figure was also examining them, starting with the 3 females. Uzumaki Kushina was wearing a torn red shirt that showed her impressive cleavage that clearly couldn't be held into a bra, brown fingerless gloves, gray shinobi pants that had their own slash marks, and shinobi sandals, her left arm appearing to be holding a wounded spot in her stomach. Her headband did nothing to stop her hair from covering her face due to the rain. Mitarashi Anko was only wearing her fishnet shirt that revealed the areolas of her round huge, since her trench coat had been cut to bits, gray pants with sandals, her spiky purple hair usually in a ponytail, but from the rain and fighting, it was down. Her Konoha headband acting as a belt. She was also heavily drenched from the rain. And finally, Uzumaki Naomi. The girl was wearing the remaining shreds of a black hoodie, a white tank top underneath that had been thoroughly drenched by the rain showing her easily, her headband wrapped around her neck, black pants with orange flames on the side, from what it looked, drenched bandage wrappings on her arms, and shinobi sandals. Her red hair, like her mother's, had been drenched by the rain and was currently covering half her face. His eyes then turned to the males. They all ranged from 5'9" to 5'10" with different colored hairstyles. Naruto. Ao growled in anger, "How did you catch up with us?" The redhead chuckled, "You didn't exactly believe that breaking out of prison, taking inmates with you, and crossing into a domain that does not belong to you wouldn't go unnoticed, did you?" Ao snorted before he smirked, "You won't have such an easy time defeating me as you did before after I obtained the Nine Tails chakra. You 10, drop the axe and handle him." He roared. "Yes, Ao-sama," they shouted before dropping their henges. The fake appearances dropped to show 10 new men standing there, all of them having new features. Fallen gods. Naruto snarled. Fallen gods were simply gods who had been cast out of heaven and unaccepted by hell due to how sick they were. Therefore, as punishment they were stripped of their powers and sent to a prison of sorts that had the power and force to restrain them. Until now, that is. Long time no see Naruto. A gray-haired man stepped forward, his face scarred beyond even unearthly repair. "How could anyone forget seeing a face like yours, Ryo?" he taunted, causing the man to growl. "A face you caused me," he snapped. Naruto simply shrugged, "Not my fault you thought I was a pushover and found out the hard way. Enough talking, let's just kill him already," a orange-haired man shouted. Ryo shrugged before smirking, "Fine by me. I would say it was nice knowing you, Naruto, but that would be telling a lie." Naruto simply undid his cloak, letting it flow with the wind. His three-tomo sharingan forming into its eternal Mangekyo stage as he took a taijutsu stance. "Who will be the first to fall before a god?" he asked the men as they charged. Dodging reckless punch after punch, he retaliated with an uppercut, sending one flying and dodging a kick aimed at his back. He jumped back, avoiding a fireball that hit the ground, sending debris everywhere before seeing 4 more approaching. Sweden. Sujinheki. Flashing through hand seals, he raised a wall of water that blocked all 4 but sending steam everywhere that blinded his sharingan. "Can't use that special eye now, can you?" he heard Ryo call out. "I didn't need it to beat you losers before and I don't need it now." Naruto mocked, earning growls from all around him. "Just die already," a voice yelled from behind. He turned around and caught a fist aiming for his face before gripping the hand tightly, breaking the bones within it. "Ahhhhhhhhh." The man gave a pain-filled scream that froze everyone in the vicinity before he gave a disgusting squelch from his throat and a thud was heard. A pulse of chakra was felt through their bodies as the steam cleared, showing a completely new Naruto. This Naruto wore a Anbu mask of sorts, though it was completely black with only red markings for slits around the eye holes, his eyes showing the M's, and the once long-sleeved shirt he wore gone. "Showtime," he said as he took off at a blinding speed towards his first victim, who paled. Ao also paled considerably, remembering just how dangerous Naruto was when that mask came out. He was like a bloodthirsty animal that stopped at nothing to acquire what he wanted, and if you just happened to be in his way, you lost your life. He was referred to as Yami Naruto. "Forget it, I'll just kill the women and take the Nine Tails chakra when I'm conveniently hidden away from him," he said, clear fear in his voice. "Oh, you are," a voice said behind him. The Otsutsuki's eyes widened as he turned around, only to get hit in the face, sending him into some trees and nearby into a forest. Naruto turned to 4 of his clones and nodded before he took off after Ao. "Oi, what are you guys doing?" Anko said, wincing as she was lifted up bridal style. "Taking you somewhere safe." "Where else?" a clone answered. "We don't need your help, we're capable of helping ourselves." Kushina snapped as she ripped herself from the clone assisting her, trying to walk only to grunt in pain and almost fall over before the same clone she brushed off to hold her up. "In the current situation you're in, you can't even walk, let alone fight. Why are you helping us? You could just kill us and move on with something else. Especially if you're a god like he claimed. I could, but you three interest me. Just what exactly do you mean by that? Naomi asked before wincing as she tried to sit up. Another clone that was carrying Tezuna's corpse answered, I can sense negative emotions and all three of you possess many. Though what they're directed at and why I don't know. Kushina scowled, just tell us what you want already. The clone rolled his eyes, you can cut the tough act Kushina-san. It has no effect on me whatsoever, so honestly just act normal. I am acting normal. She lied. Whatever you say. Yummy Naruto glanced around at the dead fallen gods he had picked apart, their bodies torn between broken bones, slit throats, or mental breakdown by his sharingan. All but one was accounted for. Clang. Summoning a katana in his hand and raising his behind him defensively, he had blocked a backstab meant to kill him by none other than Ryo. So we meet again, freak. Ryo taunted only to get no reply. Don't wanna talk? Fine, you'll just die in silence. The scarred man then charged, swiping madly at Yummy Naruto madly in a stray of unbalanced, sloppy, arrogant strikes. Being the skilled duelist he was, Yummy Naruto simply whacked Ryo across the face with his hilt before thrusting his blade into the shorter male's thigh, causing him to scream in pain. You little shit. I'll make you beg me for mercy after that. Slashing madly, it was clear to anyone that Ryo didn't know how to wield a sword or simply was just too angered to use it properly. Yummy Naruto simply dodged the strikes, angering the fallen god even more, who continued to slash wildly. Making eye contact with Ryo, his sharingan spun, captivating Ryo, whose eyes went dull and then he fell back. Naruto's Tsukuyomi. Ryo awoke to see his comrades well and alive cheering him on. What happened? He asked, rubbing his eyes. You did it. You killed that pathetic bastard. One of them shouted. A grin came to Ryo's scarred face. Of course I did. And now I will assume rule over the world and everything will be mine. He shouted, expecting cheers. He got none. When he turned to look at them, he gasped in horror. His former alive fallen gods were now dead. Their eyes plucked out, organs spilled out hanging them, and their mouths carved into creepy demonic smiles. What the? Ryo shouted, falling on his, attempting to turn and run away only to come face first with his deceased son. Daddy, the boy said, moving towards the man. No, no. Get back. Daddy, don't you remember me? The boy's face began more disfigured, one side beginning to melt while the other turned scarred as he began to start crying in pain, holding his chest. You caused this. The child blamed Ryo, who was too horrified to do anything. The boy's body then turned to flames as he screamed, which would be somewhat adorable had his not be melting. He charged his former father, who was still frozen on the spot, thus catching him on fire as well. Only when he began to burn did he finally react. Get off me. No, I can't die yet, please stop. No. The genjutsu ended with Yummy Naruto looking down at the remains of Ryo. His body had been burnt badly beyond recognition, his eyes bleeding profusely, and ooze coming out of mouth, nose, and ears. That was easier than I thought, he said before disappearing back into his original body. Devastation. That was the only real word to describe the battlefield. Torn ground, chunks on earth everywhere, destroyed trees, burning bushes, gaping holes in the ground. In the middle stood two men. One being Ao, though it wouldn't be your fault if you didn't recognize him. His kimono had been ripped, one of his pupilless eyes being swollen shut, the other one having a vein leading down indicating he had the Byakugan. His horns were broken, being lost somewhere in the woods, and multiple cut marks all over his body. The second was Naruto, him being more identifiable. His shirt had been destroyed, forcing him to go shirtless, his left horn broken in half, blood dripping from his right eye that was swollen shut, his left arm black and scarred from a beating from the trees and Juken strikes, and his left eye that once held a 9 Tomoe Rinne Sharingan had returned to its basic Rinnegan form. It's over, Uzumaki. I've won, you've lost. And once I rip the power of the 10 tails from your body, I'll take over this timeline and everything else. I'll be the strongest there ever was. Ao shouted to the sky. Even at my weakest, you still can't kill me. How disappointing. Naruto mumbled. What did you say? Ao vehemently snapped. I'm currently not at my strongest at all, far from it actually. When the steam gave me a chance to cover myself, I created another body, you know him as Yami Naruto. My darker half. I gave him more than a generous amount of chakra to try out a new version of Tsukuyomi I had in mind for Ryo. This was how you saw him and I at the same time instead of one of us having control over just one body. Ao's smirk dropped and an infuriated look took place. He had been played. He wasn't even treated as an equal. He had looked down upon him, General Ao once again. No, he would kill this version of Naruto then kill the Yami version. Yes. Then he would take those 3 females and any other female he desired for himself. The universe would fear him and him only. Ao, the conqueror. He almost missed a dark malevolent chakra shoot into the back of Naruto who kneeled over in slight pain. Seeing his face, he smirked before rushing forward with chakra pushed into his feet, sending all the available chakra he had into his remaining hand for a killing Juken strike. He would rule all, Ao the conqueror, Ao the brave, he would be feared and respected by A. His throat was caught as he was brought face to Naruto who had stood up. The chakra in both his feet and hand quite literally had disappeared. The evil chakra flowing off of Naruto scared the former Otsutsuki general immensely, but he wouldn't let this monster know that. Naruto opened his left eye as the wind kicked up, revealing the familiar 4-ringed, 9-tomoed purple Rinne Sharingan eye. His skin turning black as a star formed above his nose. Pathetic. I wasn't even paying attention and you still couldn't catch me off guard. And you want people to call you a god? Naruto taunted as he threw Ao into the ground, a crater immediately forming due to the force and size of the heavier man. Witness the true power of a god and how he wipes out worms like you who dare defy him. Chibaku Tensai. A black sphere formed between Naruto's hands before he threw it into the sky. The sphere began attracting pieces of the earth, trees, and even Ao and Naruto was pulled into the general direction of the black ball. The taller of the two began scrambling for other pieces of earth in an attempt to reach the ground once again before being pulled back by his hair by Naruto who threw him up even higher before descending to the ground himself. Once the ball had been entirely formed and Ao had been trapped inside, Naruto began his speech. Congratulations General Ao, for your services against the universe and myself, you'll be given a merciful death for one of such importance as yourself. Please do remember when you die, this was a special occasion just for you. Anko, Kushina, Naomi, and a revived Tazuna had been patching their wounds with the supplies given to them by the clones and a couple wolves who had an odd sense of loyalty to Naruto. They didn't question it seeing how they had saved their lives, were wearing completely different clothes. Anko had been bandaged around her midsection though still wearing her fishnet shirt and fishnet stockings. Did I get that right? She also wore a black shirt with the words, "Bad bitch," on it in white with a skirt that had kunai pouches which she had also been resupplied by the clones. Her hair was back in its ponytail form. Kushina was wearing a fishnet shirt, orange shirt, black shinobi pants with 4 kunai pouches, a custom-made katana with a diamond-studded hilt with its own sheath on her thigh. Her hair had been dried out and given back its shine. Naomi had this time decided to bandage her chest before putting on a black shirt that exposed her midriff. She rebandaged her arms, along with fingerless gloves, and black shinobi pants. A brown belt that had 2 kunai pouches and across her back was a sword sheath where she had a tanto secured. She had turned her into 2 pigtail D with 2 bangs in the front hanging down. While they were changing, the 3 women had made sure on more than one occasion to make sure the clones weren't looking, which they found amusing. Tazuna had simply preferred to just be bandaged and given new building clothes. When he had been revived, naturally he freaked out, but after a slap by Anko and a brief explanation he was for the most part calm, but you could still tell he couldn't get over the fact he actually died and was then brought back to life. What the hell is that? Anko shouted, drawing everyone else's attention. The other three noticeably got worried as well, and it wasn't like they were unjustified. About a large distance from them was a giant ball made of literal earth, and then there was a meteor coming from the sky right on top of it as if it was attempting to crush it. Boss is what, trying to make sure Ao stays dead, though he might be going overboard. One of the clones answered. Well, how do we stop it? Kushina asked. You can't. With the size and force they have, attempting to stop it would be suicide at its very finest. Where's Naruto then? Shouldn't he be over here with us? Naomi asked. Who do you think made it? The second clone responded, feeling a pull. But if he's over there, wouldn't he die? Anko all but screamed. She might not have known the guy, but he was more than okay after all he had done for them so far. The three clone just stared at her like she was dumb. What part of universal godlike being with powers you have no idea about do you not understand? Boom. The meteor and ball of rock had finally made contact with the earth in an explosion that shook the ground and forest, sending powerful gusts of wind to clash against the leaves and bushes around them, leaving an eerily chill. Kushina went to question the clones only to see smoke. Where'd they go? Naomi asked. Dispelled. When the owner of said clones goes unconscious, they disappear. Anko said before seeing the wolves whine and head off in the direction of the blast. Well then, what are we waiting for? Let's follow them. The younger of the three said, then ran after the wolves. That's the first time I've seen her run after a boy like that. Kushina mumbled. Anko giggled before rubbing her sensei's shoulder. Just be thankful it's someone responsible and not someone back in that shithole village. With that, she took off after them. Kushina shrugged. She couldn't argue with that logic. She turned to Tazuna, who had been knocked out by the wind, and rolled her eyes. Civilians were so fragile. She picked him up, then chased after the group. Wow. If it looked horrible before, it was beyond now. The wasteland, yes, wasteland was destroyed. Grass, dirt, rock, broken tree, you name it was here. Where the hell could he be in all this mess? Anko said as she moved a couple rocks. How about starting where the giant crater is? Naomi pointed out. Anko blinked. There was like a huge crater just opposite of where she was. Oh yay. The three females approached the crater to see Naruto wiping off dirt and grime of his face and body. He looked up at them and gave a toothy grin. Oh hey there, ladies. I'm incredibly grateful that you came back for me, he said. They rolled their eyes watching as he climbed out the crater, but gasped when they saw his current physical condition. How are you even standing? Anko shouted. I'm awesome like that, duh. He stuck his tongue out at the purple-haired woman. So where's that freak with the world domination plan? She asked, trying not to stare at his chest and failing miserably. She wasn't the only having that same problem. Kushina and Naomi, for all their willpower, couldn't look away. Dead. I just don't know what I wanna do now. Naruto mumbled as he sat down. What do you mean? I mean, I don't know if I wanna go back home and chill or stay here and piss people off. Don't you have to report back or something? Naomi asked curiously. The Otsutsuki waved her off. Nah, you'd have to be an idiot to think Ao could actually hurt me, let alone kill me. Well, how strong are you really if you're able to do something like that and still live? Naruto walked ahead, signaling them to follow him. They did. He then summoned a shadow clone. Make sure that forest is returned to its original state. Leave nothing untouched. It nodded and sped off. How exactly is he supposed to cover up that giant mess? And answer my earlier question. Anko barked before squeaking as Naruto picked her up and carried her over his shoulder. I'll explain that. Just calm down, he said, walking over to a stream. I'll calm down when you put me back on my feet. The redhead simply sat down with Anko in his lap, glaring at him. I was once like you, Naomi, except I was a boy. Anyways, I was born a Jinchuriki. My mother and father died upon my birth, saving their pathetic village and father sealing Kurama within me. What? Kushina whispered, shocked and somewhat dumbfounded that this man before them was once a Jinchuriki. Her fellow kunoichi weren't any better. My Jinchuriki status revealed to the village by a foolish old cage who believed his honest and kind citizens and shinobi would understand and could tell the difference between a monster and a child. Oh, how wrong he was. In the hour of my status being revealed, multiple demands of me being killed as retribution for the monster's actions or simply because I withheld Kurama himself. I was beaten, starved, and mocked every day for 12 years straight with very little people actually caring about me, though they of course had their own agendas about me as well. My teaching was sabotaged. I was mocked for not being able to do something so easy by the other students and adults alike. I was told I'd never amount to anything and I'd always be a loser no one cared for. He chuckled. Naomi winced. That sounded a lot of how the people back in Konoha had said in their attempt to break her. Of course it hadn't worked, seeing how she had more confidence about herself and she had been told daily by either her mother, Anko, or Sum how proud they were of her, but Naruto sounded like he didn't really have anyone at all. I had failed the exams 3 times, only graduating because I somehow managed to learn a forbidden jutsu and stop a traitorous chunin who also revealed my status to me. I was placed on a team with an annoying loud fangirl who at the time I had a crush on, an emo loser who thought he was Kami's gift from heaven, and a one-eye pervert who gave more about his porn than he did about actually training us. Anko and Kushina glanced at each other. That sounded an awful like. Their eyes widened. Kakashi. Me. I was the worst. No types of training. Only one jutsu that I spammed repeatedly only because it was the only thing I knew and I had the chakra to do so. I was loud, obnoxious, annoying, dumb, incoordinated, and an all-around mess. No one wanted to be around me and for a while, I was hurt over it. I wanted to be someone who everyone respected and loved, to be known as Naruto, not Kyuubi, the 9-tailed fox in human form, or a blonde idiot who was playing ninja. His Mangekyo unconsciously formed in his right eye, spinning slowly as he gritted his teeth. The thing is, no one wanted to help me get better. Better to have the brat clueless and useless until we need him but not strong enough as to where he can fight back against us, they said. My first C-ranked mission, I was completely overwhelmed. I had no idea what to do, so naturally I was beaten badly. Did anyone care? Little Naruto? No. They only cared about that loser because he was the Rookie of the Year. Bah. He only got the title because he was spoiled silly. The 3 winced as they felt his chakra spike violently in waves that easily dwarfed the malice Kyuubi had made when it had attacked the village. It was just so hard to breathe, so suffocating, so dominating. By some miracle I had inspired the people of the town we were in to fight back against this fat and greedy businessman. It was also when I first heard the term, precious people, people who you cared for, those who you'd put your life on the line for time and time again. I understood that, but I also understood I had no one even close to that. No one cared for me, so in turn, I didn't care for them. Naruto recounted the many alternate dimensions of his world he traveled through and experienced. The heartache, the anger, the rage, the sorrow, and finally acceptance. He had been conflicted for some time on how he actually saw his parents, Kushina and Minato. He had seen too much and done too much to view them as Tu-san and Ka-san. There had been dimensions where they had lived only to attempt to turn him into a weapon, where they saw him as Kurama and thus abandoned him, and even times where they had chosen a second child over him and had simply forgotten about his existence. Other dimensions had them living and being real parents who cared, trained him, loved him, and always him before themselves. He had thus came to the conclusion that depending on the dimension he was in, he would decide if they were friend or foe and just what role they would have. So, Anko interrupted his mental thinking, if you had no one to call precious, what did you do then? He smirked at her, causing the purple-haired Jonin to blush slightly. Heeding my advice, the villagers and townsfolk did fight back against the oppressor and after winning named a bridge after me. I was hailed as a hero, someone who gave them hope and courage. I was ecstatic that at least a few people had treated me like an actual human being. However, my happiness didn't last long. My harpy of a teammate attempted to make the people see her dear crush was the hero and a blonde dunce like me could never do anything right. It didn't help that said crush had threatened to take my life if I ever took his so-called glory away from him while in front of said people. He said, still daydreaming of things he occurred through different dimensions. I'd say the biggest blow came from my supposed sensei who scolded and reprimanded me because I somehow got in Sasuke's way and made a mess of things. Those three things all together had utterly broken me, mentally. Even though I had done nothing wrong, I was being blamed for a egotistical bitch's inability to care for others. The three females were listening intently, feeling rage at such a horrible thing happening to someone like Naruto. I had lashed out, verbally, at them. I let all my frustrations at not only them but their shitty little village as a whole go, with a special you to each of them before running. I didn't know where I was going to run, but I just knew I had to go somewhere. He recalled yet another memory of how stunned and shocked Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura were of the Dobi, verbally ripping into them. It was there in the woods that I discovered I had something they didn't. And what was that? Kushina asked, cut in between crying or killing whoever had made her Naruto go through such torment. Wait. Her. The dojutsu of the Sage of Six Paths and what was rumored to be a myth, the Rinnegan, Samsara Eye. It is said that in times of disorder, one who wields the Rinnegan is sent down from the heavens to become either a god of creation who will calm the world or a god of destruction who will reduce everything to nothingness. He answered before activating his Rinnegan, showing them exactly what it looked like without the tomo. If you're a former student of Kakashi, why haven't we heard of you before? Anko asked, mesmerized by the rings of the purple eye. I'll just show you. Telling it all out would take days. He muttered. Before they could ask what he meant, he tapped their foreheads, forcing them into unconsciousness. Kuchio's no jutsu. Slamming his head on the ground, he summoned a giant wolf that easily was larger than Gamabunta. Been a while, hasn't it, Ko? Naruto asked the giant wolf. Shin gave a grin, showing his sharp teeth that were sharp to the bone. Too long, my friend, far too long. How are you? His voice boomed with power and authority which would intimidate all those who couldn't withstand it. The Otsutsuki smiled back, admiring his century-long companion. Shin's fur was black and spiky, his eyes golden, and his ears pointy. He had eventually absorbed Shin, who was at one point the Jubi, and had become his successor. He had then made Shin into his personal summon, had grown on him much like Kurama had. The wolf eagerly accepted, and the two had a strong relationship ever since. I've decided to roam yet another dimension of my homeland. Whether it is as a conqueror or peacemaker has yet to be seen. He answered as he loaded the women and Tazuna onto Shin before hopping on himself. Shin snorted, of all the dimensions and different worlds we've been to, powers we've seen, women we've seen, why do you continue to come to this wretched land? Things never end well when you do, the people of the world all fear you at some point. Naruto hummed as Shin ran through the clearing, his booming feet easily causing a ruckus and would likely scare anyone who heard it to death. Other than sentimental value, I absolutely adore watching as all the weaklings who believed I was weak, gullible, and a pushover scatter away like insects when I return to destroy their precious lives. He said, sensing conflict up ahead. There's a struggle up ahead. It smells like that woman Tsunami and her child Inari, the family of the bridge builder. I'll give them a warm welcome. A very warm welcome indeed. Naruto said as he disappeared in a flocks of crows. Shin rolled his eyes. Even after years of godhood, fighting, and every desirable woman imaginable, Naruto was still the same. Not that he would have it any other way, of course. Tsunami screamed as the thug held her down, ripping her clothes off. It had just been as normal as the day could be. She was cooking dinner, worried for her father's safety as he had went out to request help from Konoha. He had been gone for more than a few hours, so it was only natural. Then 3 armed thugs working for Gato had broken into the house, grabbing her and her son and forcing them outside the house. Apparently Gato had caught wind of her father going to Konoha for assistance and had sent a group of men to deal with him. However, in the event he did live, she and Inari would be used as bargaining chips for inspiration as to not finish building the bridge. Though the thugs had other plans which involved forcing themselves onto her, and in front of her child no less. She had already been raped once, she didn't want it to happen again. Someone please help me, she screamed and was rewarded with a smack to the face by the thug. A nasty-looking man in his mid-40s. Shut up, bitch, you should be grateful we're doing this for you. Don't worry, after we're done giving you more kids, you won't ever feel lonely again, we'll pass you around to everyone. He laughed as he dropped his pants and underwear showing his member. Ka-san, no, Inari yelled with tears in his eyes. Shut up, you stupid brat. The second thug barked as he punched Inari in the face, giving the boy a black eye and almost lose consciousness. No one's coming to save you, bitch, just shut up and take our. The third grinned as he began moving towards the held-down woman. You sure about that? All 5 people looked up to see a shirtless redhead with multiple wounds on his body. In their minds, the fact he was still moving was nothing short of a miracle. Get lost before we finish you off, buddy. This doesn't have anything to do with you. The first thug snapped, angry he had been denied the chance of the woman. Naruto grinned as he began walking towards them, cracking his knuckles. 2 of the thugs pulled out shanks as they walked on the redhead, told you to get lost, now you gotta die. The thugs lunged at Naruto only to find him gone. Where'd he go? URK. The 2 turned around to see their third partner holding his throat, pulling out a kunai that had been lodged in it before he fell to the ground dead. Boo. The 2 jumped and turned around only for their vision to go dark. Tsunami and Inari watched as Naruto walked towards them and kneeled. You 2 alright? They nodded dumbly, still not able to comprehend what had just happened. Shin came out of the clearing as 3 irate kunoichi and 1 dizzy Tazuna got off, Tsunami and Inari immediately running to hug Tazuna and Anko, Naomi, and Kushina standing in front of Naruto with their arms crossed. Shin simply watched the exchange amused. Oh, hi there, Naruto said as he took a precautionary step back. God or not, upset women were annoying to deal with. We are going to talk about this and we're going to do this privately. Kushina said, growling. Yay, gotcha. He waved them off and raised an eyebrow when they all raised their ki directly at him. Now, Anko said, Shin, watch them for me, will ya? The wolf nodded as he shrunk to a more respectable size and walked over to the family. Naruto, however, didn't notice as he was being dragged into the forest. One thing was more than likely for sure, Otsutsuki Naruto was back in the elemental nations. Nothing was going to be the same. Naruto sighed as he sat up against a tree, his blue eyes watching his kunoichi as they fought against his clones, displaying good taijutsu and ninjutsu skills but not great. Anko flipped over a clone and launched snakes at him while his back was turned only for the clone to slash the snakes into smoke with a kunai and charge at her. The clone clashed kunai with Anko before kicking her in the stomach before flipping her over his head. The clone then slammed his foot into Anko's chest, making her cough up blood before kicking her aside. Naruto's eyes then traveled to Naomi, who was getting her beat quite literally. He winced as she was thrown into a tree. He was positive he heard something break. His eyes then finally landed on the mother of said girl, Kushina, who was in a sword duel against he final clone and was actually faring well. Kushina blocked an aggressive thrust by RHE clone and retaliated with a slash, forcing it to block. Returning with a growl, the clone unleashed powerful slashes at the red-headed woman, who was unable to keep up, resulting in her getting slashed across the body, giving her multiple wounds. The clone then flipped over Kushina, who only kept up with him due to the clone going 40% and Kushina's own battle instincts. The clone kicked Kushina in the face, sending her flying only to reappear next to her, grab her leg, and slam her into the ground brutally. That's enough, we're done for the day, Naruto said, his voice automatically roaring over the empty forest. The clones nodded before healing the 3 women, then dispelling. The 3 kunoichi then stood before the Otsutsuki with their heads bowed as a sign of respect. Originally he had thought when the three women had approached him angry that they were horrified they had been saved by a guy who was quite literally a god in every sense and would demand he leave them alone forever. How wrong he was. Flashback. Wait, so the reason you're mad is because I didn't tell you I was basically a primordial being earlier on? Naruto asked. Of course I am. Kushina yelled, thinking that alone obviously made sense. It didn't. And why exactly is that, Kushina? Do you know how long I've been waiting for something like this to happen? Ever since I taught Naomi how to read, we would always read the Uzumaki history of how the Otsutsuki were the origin of our clan. Not just our clan but had adopted the Senju and Uzumaki as well. I had always prayed to Kami that if one was ever returned to the world, I would serve them without question as long as they helped you destroy Konoha and ruin everyone who tried to kill your daughter. Naruto finished. The redhead nodded with her head down, tears threatening to escape her eyes. A hand on her shoulder brought her out of her self-misery as Naruto looked her in her eyes. Very well, Uzumaki Kushina, I will grant you your request of destroying and ruining Konoha. All I ask is your undying loyalty to me and my plans for this world. His answer was Kushina slamming into hymns with a hug as she freely cried, yes. Thank you. Thank you. His eyes traveled to the other two women, and what of you two? Do you have the same desire to watch that village burn or is it something more? Enko stepped up first holding her arm as bit her lip shyly. I want to watch Konoha burn from the inside. I want to be by Kushina-sensei and Naomi's side, but most importantly, I don't want to be forgotten. I don't want to be a distant memory that just shows up when someone needs something done. Naomi stepped forward afterwards, her eyes showing hatred and fury. I want that stupid village and everyone in it to die. I've heard about what they say behind our backs, the things they'd do if they got the chance. I hate it. They call us demons and whores, yet they go around selling their bodies to the first one with a few ryo to spend. I just wanna live with people who don't hate me and those I love, that's all. To say everyone was shocked was an understatement. Even Naruto, who had seen it all, was shocked as the rage she had displayed in her voice before he grinned. That shitty village is gonna regret messing with you when I'm done. Flashback end. Since then the three had gotten closer to him and he had begun training them because, as he said, that village was going to pay. He just didn't like Konoha at all, honestly. It was filled and ruled by arrogant bigots who thought they were above everything in existence and beyond. It was truly amusing and hard not to kill them every time he got bored just to see their scared and terrified faces. He had shown the three the pocket dimensions his Rinne Sharingan gave him access to. Basically the ones Kagaya took Team 7 in their fight with a few new ones. The only world he hadn't shown them was the snow world where his fortress of thousands of Zetsu guarding it, and it was honestly more of a training ground and warzone to keep his skills sharp. Naruto-kun, are we improving? Naomi asked before blushing as his blue eyes met hers. Slowly but yes, we still need to work on your taijutsu and chakra control. Enko needs more jutsu and bigger chakra reserves. Kushina simply needs to get a bit stronger. He said. I still can't believe you can use the Shodime's Mokuden and the Uzumaki clan's chakra chains. That's so cool. Enko squealed. Can you teach us about the Rinnegan and Sharingan's powers? I know those on the councils are gonna do their best to have that damn Uchiha unlock the Mangekyo in some feeble attempt to control my daughter and to some extent, me. Kushina asked, knowing full well of what the council planned to do. After Itako failed to not only break into the Uzumaki compound but also using her Mangekyo on Kushina and Naomi, she was threatened by Hiruzen should she attempt to attack the Uzumaki clan head again. He wouldn't be responsible for what happened to her. Sure, the Uchiha didn't like that threat and it only fueled their hatred for him and the village. It made it easier to stomp out their wretched clan even more. It was honestly their last resort, as Kushina only took orders from the Sandaime who came to deliver said orders personally, seeing how none of his Anbu could be trusted. Naruto shrugged. Sure. Like I said before, the Rinnegan is the dojutsu of the Rakudo Sennin, Sage of Six Paths. Even if you merely get a transplanted Rinnegan, it grants immense power. I'm able to see chakra as well as its flow within the body and even the activated tenketsu of the 8 gates. One who possesses the Rinnegan can also easily master any jutsu as well as all 5 nature elements and create black receivers into which I can transmit my chakra into. For example, he formed a black receiver. These are called the Kuroki Jushinki, chakra receivers. With these I can inject my chakra into those I put them into. Chakra can be transmitted across vast distances, though I usually don't use them at all. The Rinnegan also has the power to control up to 6 bodies called the 6 paths. They're referred to as Tendo, Diva, Shirado, Asura, Ninjendo, Human, Chikushodo, Animal, Gakido, Preta, and Jigokudo, Naraka. There however is one last path called the Gedo, outer. With the Gedo path, a person could control all 6 paths using additional bodies. He informed them. So, what do they do? Anko asked for Kushina and Naomi. The Tendo path allows me to control gravity. The Shirado path grants me the ability to turn my arms into weapons or armor. The Ninjendo path grants me the power to rip out someone's soul and or read their mind, an invaluable ability. The Chikushodo path allows me to summon many animals and animals to fight for me, whether I have a summoning contract for them or not. The Gakido path lets me absorb any and all kinds of ninjutsu. The Jigokudo path allows me to summon and control the King of Hell, a large head mainly used for interrogation. Honestly, it's better for me to show you than tell you. Finally, the Gedo path has the ability to revive the dead, cue the shocked gasps, and those with certain Rinnegan have their own special powers to make them even more overpowered. He shouted, snapping the females out of their stupor. Do you have special Rinnegan powers? Naomi wondered out loud. Due to having the most overpowered Rinnegan in existence, yes I do. Naruto said, thinking back on just how he acquired every single jutsu the Rinne Sharingan had. He acquired Limbo from Madara, seeing how the ancient Uchiha's body had formed with Naruto's during the sealing and absorption. He had stolen a Menetejikara from Sasuke the first time round, a Frere absorbing the Uchiha, Yin Chakra. He had acquired the creation of all things from Hagoromo, all killing Ash Bones, Amanamanaka, and Yomatsu Hirasaka from Kagaya. Add that with unlocking his 9 Tomoid Rinne Sharingan, Eternal Mangekyo, and Byakugan from Kagaya and Shin, he was never really in danger of dying either, since his healing factor's speed was unmatched by anything. I am seriously overpowered, he thought before being pulled out of his thoughts by Anko pocking his face. Finally. Well, what are they? She grinned brightly at his twitching eye. This was gonna be a long day. Later that day, Anko, Naomi, Kushina all groaned as they entered the house, foregoing dinner in favor of going upstairs to sleep the night away. Naruto walked in shortly afterward with a smirk on his face. After he explained every one of his Rinnegan and Mangekyo powers, he proceeded to train them into the ground brutally. Like he said before, they needed a lot of improvement. Well, Kushina didn't, but Anko and Naomi did. Even though they had gotten rid of Naomi's chakra control problem after he loosened the seal a bit, she needed taijutsu and ninjutsu work along with how to resist powerful genjutsu. Anko needed assistance with fighting with people in straight-up taijutsu and needed other jutsu than just snakes, along with the reserves to handle using said jutsu without passing out or nearly dying. Kushina was perfectly fine where she was for now, seeing how she could easily handle multiple Anbu on her own without exhaustion. Shadow clones were incredibly useful for training purposes, and it showed today. Speaking of Kushina, he got to find out just exactly why her and Naomi hated Konoha with a passion almost as strong as he did. So Minato turned out to be a piece of shit. The usual people were fangirls of Minato and everyone hates them except the old man, Sum, and her daughter Hana. Amusing, he thought to himself. In certain dimensions, no one had stood by Kushina and her daughter, or in some cases him, after the Kyuubi attack. Everyone called his death, and if she protected him, they called for hers as well. Another thing, just like in certain dimensions everyone in Konoha hated and despised him, in others they loved him and adored him. After eating dinner and chatting with Tsunami and Tazuna, he resigned to the couch and closed his eyes before he felt someone sit on his legs. It was Kushina. She wore a long white t-shirt with the Uzumaki swirl on the back. Her red bangs covering her face as the rest flowed down to her butt and over his feet. Something wrong? He asked as he sat up, wrapping an arm around her waist. I just want to thank you. Her voice was soft yet trembling as if she was about to cry. It's Noth. Her finger pressed against his lips to silence him. Stop talking, she commanded, and Naruto blinked. Before you showed up, I was losing hope. I was giving my all to show those people that their words and taunts never got to me, that no one would touch my daughter or threaten her without losing their life. When Ao showed up, I was honestly hoping he would kill us just to end my daughter's suffering. She didn't deserve to be brought into a world like this. Always putting on a tough front for her and being comfort when she cried at night when the villagers and shinobis taunting got to her. When you showed up and gave us those memories, you gave us hope again. You gave me hope. The tears were falling freely from the woman's violet eyes. Naruto brought her close and rubbed her back soothingly, whispering sweet words into her ear, calming her down. She gripped his shirt tightly as she sniffed, rubbing her head into his chest. I'm so glad Tamari and Mei taught me how to deal with women. He thought, thinking back to his first wives. Eventually Kushina fell asleep, so Naruto carried her up to her room she shared with Anko and Naomi and knocked on it. Naomi peeked out and gasped, Mom. Is she okay? She asked. Yeah, she's just mentally and emotionally tired. Naruto said as he handed Kushina over to Anko, who opened up the door. Thanks, we'll make sure she rests. Anko said. Naruto nodded and went back downstairs. In order to take over this world and not risk draining it dry with warfare, we'll need powerful and influential allies. Yummy, Naruto said from the dark depths of Naruto's mind. Indeed, but first we need to see who's who and who's worth converting and who just needs to be put down like dogs. There had been times whereas not even the other Jinchuriki liked Naruto, not that he cared. They had treated the Biju like their villages did, with resent, only calling on their chakra to defend themselves and then talking down on them afterwards. Made it easier for him to rip out the tailed beasts and give them freedom. The only ones that continually understood and liked Naruto actually were the tailed beasts themselves, seeing as how they could all bond together in some form of way. Not everyone is worth saving, that I've learned and understood. Naruto muttered as he laid back down on the couch. Those that oppose the Lord of Chaos all die in the end, begging for mercy and forgiveness for their stupidity. Worlds have been conquered, this one will not be any different. With Yami's laughter in his head, Naruto fell asleep with a smirk on his face with one last thought. No, it will not. The next day, once again Naruto was in the woods watching Naomi and Anko battle the clones. Kushina was ordered to sleep. He had 2 clones watching the house and 2 more clones following Tsunami, who had went out for groceries. He snapped his fingers and watched as the clones disappeared, leaving the 2 females confused. Your next opponent will be me, he said as he stood up. Immediately both girls looked terrified, but we aren't ready, Naomi said, backing up when he glared at her. So you're admitting you're a loser? A worthless shinobi? If you don't have the guts to fight someone stronger than you and find a way to beat them, then you are pathetic. Worthless. A waste of time. What good are you anyways? He yelled, taunting her. Hey, don't talk to her like that, Anko yelled upon seeing the rage build up in the girl's face. What are you gonna do about it? Cry with your pillow stuff in your face again? If you aren't going to fight me, then you're just as worthless as she is, snake whore. Those words immediately sent the 2 into a blind rage as they lashed out at Naruto, who simply grinned. Ducking under a kick from Anko, he backhanded Naomi to the ground, then blocked a punch from Anko before kicking her down. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naomi yelled as 50 clones appeared in the clearing with katanas, the original with the special sword she had been given. Cute, but I've got a better sword. Holding a hand in the air, a sword formed out of thin air into his grasp. Its grip was covered in bandages, the blade completely black though easily showing Naruto's reflection. Naomi and her clones simply growled as they ran towards the Otsutsuki. Naruto blocked the first few wild slashes of some clones and easily dispelled them with a slash across the chest or decapitation. Ducking to avoid a group of snakes aiming for his face, he sent a wordless Shinra Tensei towards Anko, who was pushed into the woods. He jumped back to avoid a explosive tag going off right in front of him and smirked at the blue ball of energy in Naomi's right hand. "Looks like you completed the Rasengan after all, I'm shocked." He mocked her. Said girl just screamed with rage as she attempted to attack him with it, only for the ball to self-implode on her, sending her into a tree. "Too much chakra, not even balance," he scolded as he dispelled 4 more clones. "Kaden. Ruka no Jutsu." Naruto whistled in appreciation at the large fire dragon heading his way at a high speed. "Looks like her reserves are improving greatly, I'm impressed." He substituted himself with a wood clone nearby in the tree and watched as it melted. He jumped down from the tree just as Naomi pounced on the branch he was at, only to recuperate and surround him with Anko. "Ninjutsu's fine. Lesson 2. He backhanded Anko, then kicked Naomi, sending them both to the ground, only for them to get back quickly and rush him. Using his flexibility, he jumped over Anko using her shoulders as springs. However, Naomi, expecting this, slammed another incomplete Rasengan into his face, the same result as before, blowing up, sending all 3 flying back and creating a shockwave that sent all animals in the area that had been watching them scattering for safety. With Kushina. Kushina was currently in a red and white apron, a red shirt, and skin-tight black pants, helping Tsunami with the dishes preparing for dinner. She was thinking back to before Naruto had came in their lives. She was an all-time low before he showed, whether or not she liked it, it was true. Dealing with when would someone get the balls to attack Naomi or them together at once, when would Jiraiya and Kakashi attack her daughter when they had somehow once broke into their home, when would Danzo in his rude attempt to attack them, it was stressful. On top of the fact she didn't trust anyone from Konoha and had to get their food and clothing from outside the village, it was tiring. She was only but one person, as Anko was already disliked heavily due to her past apprenticeship to Orochimaru, and soon had her own clan and family to worry about. She couldn't ask Hiruzen for much, otherwise that damned village could use that as favoritism and vote him out of office and Danzo in. That was the last thing either of them wanted. The only source of income they got was from S-ranked missions she took and from her friend who was a general in the Fire Daimo's samurai army. So when Naruto showed up, she was more than happy giving him her loyalty, and so far he hadn't let her down. He wasn't abusive, a pervert for the most part, or demanding. He just wanted to help them and rebuild her home village, Uzushiogakure. It didn't matter much to her about the other things she had seen in his memories. From what she saw, he was a hell of a better man than Minato or his loser of a sensei ever was and would be by light years. That's when she heard it. Boom. She looked up instinctively due to her ninja reflexes, looking at the window as she saw a powerful breeze sweep the trees past. "Kushina-san, what do you think that was?" Tsunami asked. After getting no response, she looked over to see the red-headed woman gone and the back door open. The woman blinked. She didn't think she could move that fast. Naomi's mindscape. Naruto groaned and sat up to find himself in a sewer. "Never thought I'd see this place again," he muttered. Standing up, he walked over to the darkest parts of the sewer and stepped back to avoid a claw from grasping him. "You have far better reflexes than my jailer." Out of the darkness came a large fox head with its mouth snarling, red eyes glaring at the male before it. "Where is Naomi anyways?" he asked. "This conversation does not require that girl, but alas, I can't stop when she chooses to arrive in here." "Damn right you can't, you overgrown carpet," a feminine voice shouted. The fox groaned in annoyance before banging its head against the bars in defeat. "Naruto-kun, why are you here?" "Hey furball, why are we here?" Naomi said, walking over to the cage. "If you'll shut up, I'll show you," it barked back. Naomi looked offended and was about to retort until a hand was placed on her shoulder. She looked over and saw Naruto shaking his head. You bickering back and forth isn't going to help this relationship prosper. He lectured. Suddenly a red light covered the Kyuubi's head and eventually its entire body. The Biju began to shrink down until its form now resembled a woman. Naomi looked over to Naruto for an explanation only to see him blinking slowly trying to process it as well. Apparently this was his first time seeing this as well. The light died down revealing a woman with black hair leading to the middle of her back. Her eyes were red though you could only see one of them. Cute red and white fox ears on the top of her head. She wore a black kimono which protected her huge and womanly curves from being seen, and finally a white tail with red fur coming out of her backside. Quote. Naruto was speechless. He had crossed just about every Naruto dimension there was and he had only seen a female version of Kurama once. He had a better chance of seeing a female Madara than he did a female Kurama. You're female, Naomi shouted in surprise. The woman looked annoyed at how loud the teenager was and made it known with her glare. I've had all female hosts, what did you expect? She then turned to Naruto who was still blinking yet not saying anything. Fox got your tongue. She taunted with a smirk. The Otsutsuki snorted. Well, excuse me for wondering how the hell you're a woman, seeing how I usually come across males all the time. He said. She sighed before walking up to the bars of the cage poking her head out. Your memories are quite interesting indeed. In all my years of being in this damned world, I never thought I'd meet someone that would surpass father's or Kagaya's power so greatly as you do. I was born a woman along with my sisters Matabi, Isarabi, and Isobu. Out of all of us, we four are the most level-headed and least corrupt. What do you mean, least corrupt? Naomi asked. My brother's son Goku, Kukuo, Seiken, Chome, and Gyuki became corrupt after father died. They often attempted to try to rule over us seeing themselves as superior to us because they were male. They corrupt their Jinchuriki hosts wanting them to believe they're invincible. Naruto frowned. That wasn't usually what happened during these dimension runs. The Biju were usually so relatable. Anything else? I want to offer my body, heart, soul, and awesomeness to you on one condition. She said. His sweat dropped as she said body and awesomeness. Why me and what's the condition? For starters, I'd rather be on the side of someone who could easily wipe me out without a mere glance plus you're quite the looker, she complimented ignoring Naomi's glare. Second, I owe it to Kushina and her daughter for letting myself get placed into such a weak genjutsu by yet another Uchiha dog. She snarled. And the condition? Free my sisters, she pleaded. I could care less about my brothers but please, save my sisters from whatever their pathetic and ignorant hosts have become or attempted to turn them into. She looked at him silently begging, even bowing her head in submission. Naomi was speechless, for the dreaded Nin Tails to be a woman was already mind-boggling but now she was willingly giving her servitude to him. Help out Naomi and you have a deal. He waited for a name. Kiyomi. My name is Kiyomi and I'll do everything in my power to help her. Especially since I have all of my chakra. Kiyomi said. Naruto smirked and nodded. He could feel himself waking up and judging from Kiyomi's disappointed look, he was right. We'll talk later. Real world. Naomi awoke and immediately winced feeling pain from her right arm. She looked at it only for her eyes to widen, from her hand to her elbow was covered in bandages. It was also still slightly bleeding from the looks of the dark red staining the bandages. She looked up to see Anko, her mom, and Naruto conversating back and forth. Now that we know where the rest of the tailed beasts are, what's stopping you from taking them now? Anko asked. Bandages around her midsection and head due to the explosion the Rasengan caused. I made you all a promise, didn't I? He asked, shocking the three. Even after such a threat has been revealed to you, you still want to put us first. Kushina muttered. Naruto nodded as he picked up Naomi bridal style causing her to blush. Now come on, that's enough training for today. Your wounds need to heal and I'm sure all three of you are hungry. Along with the fact of Kiyomi not shutting off Naomi and instead helping her, changes can be made that will shock that pathetic little village. What about that Senju bitch, Tsunade? Should she return to the village, our plans will have to be sped up tremendously. Yami reminded him. Do you believe she is the same? Of course she is. It's like every run we take where Kushina's alive, that big whore believes that the Biju belong to her dead clan or that's she's some top shit because she's Hashirama's granddaughter. In many of their dimension runs, Tsunade was less than pleased to see either him or Kushina and only thought for herself. It was one of the reasons he never truly cared for her nor Jiraiya whatsoever anymore. Both were losers in his opinion, one who drinks and gambles running away from reality and sells her companion's body to back off her debt collectors, and the other a self-proclaimed, super pervert, who wrote smut novels, went in brothels and played with prostitutes, and harassed women and invaded their privacy constantly. However, the lingering of Yami's voice intrigued him. Yes. When you do retrieve the ones Kiyomi's sisters, give them powerful women as their containers. Going off if what she says is true, they'll not only be annoyed but disgusted by their obsolete containers and would immediately take the chance to be given someone who's competent. And whose advice is better to take than the man who freed them? Keep giving me ideas like this and I'll have no choice but to merge us together completely. Naruto joked. Yami was an incredibly smart tactician, planner, and leader whereas Naruto himself was a teacher, fighter, and warlord. Even Kami, Yami, and Shinny had agreed should the two of them merge into one mind, Naruto would easily be the smartest mind to ever live. I wouldn't mind becoming one again. After all, the only reason I even became a thing was because you liked being so sadistic and wanted to terrorize people with two versions of us. Couldn't argue with him there. When they arrived back to the house, immediately Tsunami, Inari, and Tazuna began asking if they were okay. We're fine, just exhausted from fighting. Enko said. Naomi Nichan, can you teach me how to channel my chakra when you feel better? Inari begged. Sure squirt, as soon as someone puts me down. She glared at Naruto who snorted then abruptly dropped her on her. The redhead escaped as she hit the floor and glared at the Otsutsuki who walked over and laid on the couch without a care in the world. Jerk. She yelled rubbing her butt. The three older women giggled before walking over to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Tazuna merely chuckled then went back upstairs with Inari who whined about not being able to learn from his Oni-san and Nei-chan. She looks so happy around him. Kushina said with a smile as she watched her daughter jump on Naruto earning a grunt from the male. I'm eternally grateful to Naruto-san for saving me from being defiled by those dirty men. Tsunami took a moment to shudder upon remembering the memory. I don't want to think what could have happened if none of you had shown up. She said. Enko rubbed the woman's back in a comforting manner. We all owe a lot to Naruto. I just don't know how we can repay him. Mom. Naomi squeaked. The three women looked over to see Naruto holding Naomi in the air above his head. Otsutsuki Naruto, you put her down this instant. Kushina scolded causing the male to raise an amused eyebrow. You know, that normally works if you're talking to normal people. He chuckled. The red-headed mother stuttered for a bit, her face turning red with embarrassment. Put her down Baka, she yelled. You wanna take her place Kushina-chan? I'd be happy to hold you in my arms too. He teased. Embarrassed beyond any point ever in her life, Kushina summoned a katana and rushed after Naruto who wisely took off outside with Naomi laughing following behind them. I've never seen her that happy before. Enko said feeling slightly jealous. Really? They look incredibly happy with him. It's a shame you won't stay long after you kill Gato. Tsunami said getting the ramen from the stove. Thanks to Naruto's creation of all things, he had given the family many things they usually had no means of affording. Yeah, it was true, after they had killed Gato and Tazuna rebuilt the bridge, they would head back to Konoha to begin planning for its downfall. And show everyone in the village just how insignificant they truly were. With Naruto, Kushina, and Naomi. Naruto bobbed and weaved as a red-faced Kushina and grinning Naomi slashed their katanas at him. He flipped over both of them before forming hand seals, Gokaku no Jutsu. He spit out a massive fireball that practically roared as it charged at them. The two raised a hand each and shouted, Sweden, Sujinheki. Raising a wall of water, they consumed the fireball, putting it out and sending steam to cover the forest ground. Hopping into a tree above, Kushina looked at Naomi, who was using her senses to find their annoying leader. Friend, lover, what was he to them? It was due to her shinobi training that at the last second she avoided a kunai aimed for her head. She glared across the trees where she saw Naruto, who was looking bored, twirling another kunai in his fingers, his right eye now sporting the 3-tomo sharingan that was spinning slowly, his left eye still blue. Fighting in an apron, Kushi-chan. He mocked. What'll happen if you lose all your clothes? Said woman got a gleam in her eyes as she grabbed the apron and ripped it away, surprising both Naruto and Naomi as the woman literally flashed over to where Naruto was, jabbing her katana where Naruto was. Only for him to turn into a flock of crows that started pecking at Kushina. Get away from me, you bothersome bastards, she said, swiping at them. She looked at her daughter only to see her fighting Naruto when a hand wrapped around her throat and slammed her against the tree. She was about to curse when she blushed at how close the Otsutsuki was to her, their noses just inch apart. She could practically feel his breath on her lips, his blue eyes staring her violet ones. You let your guard down, he criticized. Had I been an enemy, your lack of focus would have gotten you killed. I know. She regained her breath as he let her down and his grip on her throat relaxed. He turned his head to his clone that was toying with Naomi, and judging from her face she was having fun. Naruto released Kushina's throat before snorting at the half-hearted glare she sent him. This is necessary because I don't want none of you dying on me. I can bring you back to life, but it costs me and I'd rather avoid it if possible. What does it cost you? She said, though quietly moving her hand back to her sword. He chuckled quietly. You'll have to do better than that, he thought before his eternal Mangekyo formed. In a flash, their swords were drawn and clashed together in a blurry of slashes, carving up the tree entirely until the top of it fell to the ground, peeling. The two jumped down to the ground floor before engaging again. Naruto ducked and jabbed at Kushina with a thrust aimed for her lungs, though she blocked it and retaliated with a slash across the chest, which healed instantly though destroyed the shirt he was wearing. He wasn't given time to make a perverted comment as he was hit with the memories of his clone dispelling and then dodging a sword thrust aimed for his back. Backflipping away from the mother and daughter duo that had reunited, he stared down at them impassively, turning into what he dubbed his teacher mode. You both have grown during these short couple of days. You've taken my teachings to heart, you've listened to my words of advice, you even look at me as a potential lover. He grinned at the huge blushes that formed covering their faces before returning his face to its emotionless state. Naruto then activated his Rinne Sharingan that showed 5 tomo instead of 9 this time. However, the sky began to turn dark as rain started pouring onto the three of them, drenching all of them and causing their hair to fall over their faces. Now I'm putting what I've taught you to the test. If you survive for the next 3 hours, you pass. If you don't fight with everything you got, I'll kill you. His voice was void of emotion, and honestly it scared the two Uzumaki women. They now truly saw why he was a primordial god. Someone with power and rank far beyond anyone they had ever seen. His hair covered his left eye once more, though you could see the purple of the dojutsu easily from time to time. The red of the eternal Mangekyo shining brightly in the dark, almost lulling them to sleep. Any other rules? Kushina asked, barely able to breathe under the raw pressure of the power he was displaying. Kyuubi, or now Kiyomi's, was nothing compared to this. Naruto merely tilted his head and Kushina felt offended. He acted like she had just said something dumb. Mom, look out, Naomi shouted at the last minute, tackling her and her mother out of the way. Kushina's eyes widened as a fireball barely missed them, hitting the ground, and sending chunks of earth everywhere. Her eyes traveled back up to the branch the Otsutsuki previously was to find him gone. Mom, come on, we have a better chance fighting him if we stick together, the younger of the two said. Why yeah, You're right. Refocusing herself, Kushina and Naomi walked back to back deeper into the training forest Naruto had designed to train them in away from civilization and had put barriers up. I wonder how Anko's doing. With Anko glared at the man behind her with a scowl. Mitarashi Anko was many things. Pervert, sadistic, psycho, crazy, protective, loyal, kind to those who deserved it, awesome, sexy, dango lover. But most important of all, she was sensitive. Before Naruto had joined into her life, she was much like Kushina. Waiting for someone to get the balls and attack her. All her friends had practically abandoned her when she defended Kushina and her baby. Not that she had many. Kurenai had stopped talking to her and even denounced their friendship after she found out Anko wasn't going to hate Kushina or Naomi. Yugao had also backstabbed her all so she could get on the good side of her higher-ups. Her exact words were, "Do you know what that would do to my reputation if I got seen hanging around the village rejects? Do me a favor and stop talking to me." Hana had for some time stopped talking to her as some of her civilian friends had been killed by Kiyomi, though that was stomped out by Sume. Unfortunately, neither Anko or Kushina wanted much to do with Hana, seeing how they could easily see the dirty looks Hana gave Naomi from to time. The Otsutsuki not only saved her from a fate worse than death, but he was kind to her. He gave her a new goal in life. Like Naomi and Kushina, he had started training her in different things other than what she learned from Orochimaru. Her chakra reserves were like mid-Jonin level before she met him, but now they were easily reaching high Anbu low cage level reserves. The only problem she really had was that he tended to spend more time with her sensei and her daughter than her. She knew how fast she was improving compared to Naomi, though it annoying. She was honestly just scared of being forgotten again. She had abandonment issues because of Orochimaru, and she honestly believed they would stay with her forever. Whenever someone was chosen over her for anything, it'd bring back horrible memories. Her current issue as of now, though, was the grinning male who was holding her from behind, ignoring her anger. "You know, you look so much more sexy when you're mad," he teased. Red covered her face, both from embarrassment and anger. "What do you want? Shouldn't you be training Kushina-sensei and Naomi?" she snapped. She winced as his grip tightened and he brought her closer. She could feel his glare staring right through her. "Anko, I would never forget about you. Why do you think I'm here right now?" Naruto said. The Tokubetsu Jonin shrugged. "I know you won't forget me. I just want as much time with you as them." She sighed as his grip loosened as he massaged her ribs. "I'll spend more time with you, I promise," he said, gently biting her earlobe, making her mewl. "Why send a clone when I could have you?" she asked, disappointed as she rested her back against his chest. "Training? I need to see how far they'll last going all out against me." He trailed his hands to her stomach and began massaging her. "Can I join?" she asked, sighing. The clone shrugged, tugging on her ear with her teeth. "You could go help them, but you'll need to know exactly what's going on." The purple-haired woman nodded quickly, grinning, and suddenly the clone felt bad for its creator. With Naomi ran at full pace through the forest at high speed, panting heavy as she jumped over fallen trees. Everything just went to shit within seconds. Naruto had just jumped down from the trees and full-out attacked them with the intent to kill. He had separated both of them, taking her mom on but sending a clone to chase after her. She didn't know what happened to her mother, but she did know she had to survive this crazy hot cool-off. Thud. Going somewhere. She looked up and paled at the sight of her attacker. He had a scar over his right eye along with blood falling from the cut, his hair covering his left eye along with his two white horns sticking out, though the right one was broke. His Rinne Sharingan had been reverted back to a regular Rinnegan and his Mangekyo returned to a simple 3-tomo state. His upper body was covered in cuts, slashes, and burn marks, his right arm completely black, and his shinobi pants in tears. "Hey Naruto-kun, where's Ka-chan?" she said, shaking. "You'll be joining her soon." Her eyes widened before they narrowed and a snarl covered her face. "You killed her." She shouted at him though her anger didn't even seem to faze him. Naruto shrugged. I told you what would happen, it's not my fault she couldn't survive long enough. Red chakra started to swarm around the girl, her teeth sharpened, her nails turned into claws, her eyes turned blood red, pupils turned to slits, and 4 tails split from her backside. I'm going to break you. She growled out before lashing out at her fellow redhead. Naruto jumped away at the last second, avoiding being clobbered by 2 tails. He whistled in appreciation as he saw the chunk of earth missing from the ground before flashing through one-handed seals, Kaden, Ryuan Hoka no Jutsu. Blowing out several dragon-headed fireballs at Naomi, he already prepared for another attack, seeing the teen flash through hand seals with an enhanced speed. Looks like being more in tune with Kiyomi instead of being separated gives her better reaction timing. But there's one thing I never understood, what does Kiyomi mean having all her chakra? Didn't Minato seal half and half? Naomi summoned 4 clones that summoned giant water walls, managed to block out 3 of the fireballs, but 4 still managed to hit Naomi and her clones, sending steam to cover the area. The Otsutsuki jumped into the air, shouting with a roar, Kaden, Goenka. Kneading and converting his chakra to fire, he created multiple fireballs, sending them down at Naomi, who retaliated with a multitude of earth barricades to cover herself. Those shelters won't save you, Uzumaki, he muttered. Upon making contact with their target, or the ground debris went everywhere as the fireballs exploded, sending roaring flames and loud noises everywhere. With both the rain roaring down on them and the flames of fire still burning on around them, the air on the ground could easily knock you out and kill you by itself. The red-headed male dropped to the floor with a thud, the soft soil underneath his feet mushy from the heat. Sensing something from his right side, he stepped back and avoided a katana slash from cutting him in 2. His would-be attacker had red hair, a torn and half-burnt Jonin vest, her black shirt ripped, her shinobi pants torn, and her mouth dripping blood. Her exposed skin had cut slashes and her breathing was heavy. So you survived after all, Kushina. He clicked his tongue in annoyance. Said redhead just growled at him before swinging her sword at him again. He chose to block it this time, easily pushing her back. He rounded on her quickly, slashing from left to right, catching her off guard with a cut across the arm that made her stagger. Kushina, though, to her credit, recovered fast and kicked him in his side, earning a grunt. She even headbutted him, making him stumble back and draw blood. Do tell me, Kushina. How did you survive? I'm quite curious. Naruto asked. I'm a Uzumaki, I always find a way, Ibane. She responded, scowling. He returned her scowl with one of his own. My Amaterasu flames should have killed you, and by some small chance you lived. How did you escape the tree prison and its poisonous gas? If there always is one thing about this woman, her Uzumaki genes help her escape many things thought to be impossible. Yami said. It's quite annoying. Naruto replied. I thought you wanted her alive. Are you trying to kill them on purpose? I do. I just need to see how strong she is for when our plans go into action. Kiyomi's chakra still runs through my system, making me immune to any and all poisons known in the elemental nations, she grinned. Aside from the fact I'm a Uzumaki and former Jinchuriki, I'm a Otsutsuki descendant just like you, Dadbeo. I can adjust to anything, she said proudly before charging him with more force and power than before. Naruto, now on the defense, was impressed with Kushina's focus. Her strikes were more on point, though still not hitting him, carried more power, and were quicker. What's wrong? Scared now? Surprised? Kushi-chan has you on the run now? She taunted, chasing after him as he backflipped onto the side of a tree. Naruto's focus was mainly on the growing amount of chakra coming from where Naomi was in the incoming source of chakra, which he presumed was Anko. Fight back, idiot. Don't ignore me, Kushina shouted. The woman soon got her wish as a fist went straight into her stomach and knocked all the air out of her lungs before getting grabbed by her hair and thrown into the ground. She climbed out of the small crater her impact caused and glared at Naruto, who smirked at her. We've passed the 2-hour mark, but I'm having way too much fun to end this. Besides, I doubt Anko and your daughter want to end it either. Kushina's eyes widened before she looked back where she sensed her daughter laying and gasped. Covered in a layer of red chakra was Naomi. It was also clear, judging from her body, that her beatdown had caused for changes to be made. Her red hair, once smooth and laid down, had turned spiky, going down to her mid-back, shoulder-length bangs framing her face, covering most of her left eye. It's basically Madara's hairstyle, but red and shorter. Her whiskers marks thickened, her face lost whatever fat was left, and her eyes were cold. Her long-sleeved shirt that had one sleeve torn off showed her already impressive bust was even larger than before, rivaling Kushina's now. Her height, once at 5 feet 2, now was also at 5 feet 5. Naomi-chan. Kushina was shell-shocked at the new development. At that moment Anko chose to arrive. The sexy Anko-sama is here to saw. Her words died in her throat at the sight of the new Naomi. She looks so hot. Anko was by all means straight, but she couldn't deny when another person of the same was incredibly attractive. Did not see that coming. Naruto muttered. Whatever Kiyomi had did obviously helped Naomi, whether it was for getting in his favor or fighting wise. He had a good feeling this blessing was going to make taking over this timeline even easier. Naomi's eyes softened as they met with her mother's concerned ones. What happened to you, sweetie? She asked. When I got knocked unconscious. She took a moment to glare at Naruto, who just crossed his arms. She told me she had a surprise for me as an apology of sorts for our lives being so shitty. This was her apology? Anko exclaimed, oogling the teen. Naomi nodded, causing her hair to flow. It'll take a few hours for my mind to adjust to everything she told me about, but I can tell you this. My body has been adjusted to the point where I look like an adult. Aside from a few changes I wanted myself, my chakra control feels so much better. Aside from the jutsu Naruto-kun showed and taught me, Kiyomi gave me super strength. The male of the group groaned, sensing a headache. Super strength. He had a feeling it was far stronger than the senjus would ever be, but still. Naomi now knew many different taijutsu stances and had super strength. Could this get any better, worse? My reserves were already massive before, but now it's like they have no end. I can go up to 6 tails of her chakra without losing control. She said my speed should have a massive increase, and fire was also now one of my primary elements along with air. It got worse. Both groaned mentally, feeling the headache about to occur. Once again, he wasn't in any real danger. That being said, judging from how much Kiyomi truly provided Naomi with, she could easily be as strong as Rinnegan Madara, if not stronger. And that guy was annoying to fight. He just spammed Susanoo, Chibaku Tensei, and Tengai Shinsei all day because he couldn't get close enough to use the Jigokudo, Path's abilities. So what happened to Kiyomi? Anko asked after absorbing all the new information she had just been told. She might be out for a couple weeks. She used a lot of her chakra to make this work for me. Naomi rubbed the back of his neck, blushing slightly at the real reason Kiyomi made the physical adjustments for her so defined. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go kick his. Anko shouted, pointing at the eye-twitching Naruto. Yeah, TT Ebane. With Naomi-chan and her new awesome powers, we'll show him what happens when you mess with us. Kushina supported, her eyes sparkling as she raised her sword in Naruto's direction. With Naomi stepping in front of them, she grinned, showing some of her teeth and how sharp they were as her eyes turned to slits. Charge. I need an aspirin. I wonder if those 3 hotties up there looking at us. Multiverse, throne room, Kami, Yami, and Shinny all sneezed at the same time repeatedly. Is it allergy season already? Yami mumbled. No, just Naruto-kun thinking about us again. Kami sighed, saddened that her favorite person was out screwing with yet another timeline. It's so boring without him here. Shinny whined. Blame Ao's dumbass for going into a timeline where all the girls Naruto-kun liked have developed bodies. You're kidding. Yami looked at her sister in shock. The goddess shook her head. They look nothing like they did as kids or young teenagers. Aside from the fact the female Biju will change a few things to appease Naruto, they'll look like they did as young adults. Shinny suddenly grabbed her sister by her dress, nearly ripping it. You mean all of them have the power to make him stay there in them until they grow old? She yelled. The woman nodded, causing Shinny to drop her, then slumped to the floor depressed. There's something about those women that turns Naruto-kun into an insatiable monster. Kami said. They really missed their lover and fellow god. With Naruto and the girls. Naruto clicked his teeth as he dodged a katana slash from Kushina, used a kunai to cut two snakes sent by Anko, and backflipped to avoid being turned into splattered meat by Naomi. As his right eye bled, Naomi shouted, "Look out!" sending the other two women and herself scattering for cover as Naruto unleashed the black flames of Amaterasu. The flames instantly consumed the spot where they were at, turning it to literal ash and covering everything in the vicinity. In the trees, Naomi stared at the target of her affections with cold eyes. I'll show you just how strong I am. Then I'll tie you up and lock you in a room with me, Dot and Finn. And finally, I'll show you what it's like to get dominated by a god. She shrieked and jumped before turning around, getting a foot to the face, sending her into another tree. Rounding on her again with a punch, he barely missed her by an inch, ending up with his hand going straight into the trunk. Great. He ripped his arm out, scowling at the splinters now lodged into it. Our turn. Naomi grinned as Kushina and her got in front of him. Suiden. Suiryuden no Jutsu. The two formed large dragons that shot at Naruto, knocking him back with the force of the water. Before he could respond, Anko jumped out, forming hand seals, Kaden, Gokaku no Jutsu. Launching a fireball into the back of Naruto, the Otsutsuki was sent flying further into the forest. Stay together. If we overwhelm all at once, we'll easily beat him. Kushina said as the trio went into the forest after him. Immediately they heard laughter after Kushina's words of encouragement. Don't lie to them, Kushina. You know firsthand just how easily I can overpower you. In fact, I think I might just show you how futile this really is. On command, Roots thrust her from out the ground, wrapping around Naomi, forcing her to the ground. Shortly afterwards, Kushina was kicked into Anko, who was grabbed and pulled underground, leaving only her head for her to breath. Naruto appeared from out the ground with a tanto in his hand, pointing at the elder Uzumaki. I've already incapacitated both Anko and Naomi. Show me how strong you are, Kushina. He challenged. With pleasure. The Uzumaki woman replied, almost flashing in front of the male with a burst of speed, clashing swords with him. She was immediately put on the defensive as Naruto brought down a powerful slash every time he swung at her. Even with a standard tanto, the Otsutsuki proved he was once again better than her when it came to every aspect of fighting. Naruto, sensing the chakra buildup from Naomi and eventually her breaking free of the roots, raised his palm at Kushina, Shinra Tensei. Blowing her back, he turned around in time to catch Naomi's fist, aiming for his face. The ground cracking underneath the pressure of her chakra-enhanced punch. Mangekyo and Rinnegan eyes stared into red slit eyes, both of them not willing to give up any ground, though Naomi had a feeling she'd lose this very fast. That new look really suits you. I might have to fight off fanboys to defend what's mine. He teased and was rewarded with a heavy blush from the girl. The teenager's scowl intensified, though her red face made the fierce glare look even more cute. Idiot. We're fighting and that's what you say? You make it so easy. He pulled her by her fist, taking the surprised girl off her feet and throwing her into a tree. His Mangekyo swirled as he spun around and caught a sword strike, aiming for his rip the weapon from the surprised Uzumaki. He kneed her in the stomach before hitting her in the jaw before headbutting her. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Smoke cleared and he widened his eyes to see hundreds of Kushinas and Naomis. Let's go. One of them yelled as they all charged, yelling and shouting encouragement. Naruto grinned as the first few clones ran up on him, his Mangekyo spinning wildly. Enten, Hanoikazuchi. Dodging the first few punches, he surrounded himself with Amaterasu flames that turned into spikes, impaling then dispelling the clones. He summoned his katana just in time to block a strike from a clone and return the favor with a decapitation. Backflipping into the air, he spewed out a large fireball that instantly burned 20 clones. A few of Kushina's clones came up with an idea and acted on it, forming chakra chains and wrapping them around Naruto's limbs, binding him. A large gathering of chakra made Naruto look forward, and he was shocked to see 5 Naomis running at him with 5 red Rasengans that obviously had Kiyomi's chakra infused into them. As soon as they were a couple feet from him, his Rinnegan was revealed with 6 tomo showing. In a second, he seemingly escaped the chains, and in his place was a clone of his stationed by. He looked at their shocked faces and smiled. Amenetejikara gives the ability to shift locations of myself, others, objects, and ninjutsu. He then turned his attention to his clone. With the clones already in front of him, the clone grinned and uttered the words, Kai. The area blew up, sending whatever clones didn't dispel in the explosion into trees where they did dispel. There was quite literally a crater the size of the moon in the ground where the clone was. Still alive, I see, Naruto said, sensing Naomi behind him. I've still got more trick up my sleeve, she said, breathing heavily. Judging from how low her chakra was, she was running on fumes and was close to unconsciousness. Enough. You've improved a lot, Naomi. I'm proud of you, he praised her. She stopped in her tracks hearing the compliments and praise, but before she could say anything he was behind her. Now rest. Her world went back as she collapsed in his waiting arms. Underneath a megakure, Akatsuki hideout, 5 figures stood around a round table in silence, digesting the new information brought before them. They all wore black cloaks that had red trimming and red clouds. The first figure was a tall man that had medium-length spiky orange hair, 6 piercings that donned his face, a metal bar through each of his ears, 3 studs through the side of his upper nose, and 1 spike stud on each end of the upper lip. On his right finger, he wore a purplish-gray ring that had the kanji for 0 on it. His eyes, however, were the real shocker. They were the same as both Naruto's, the Rinnegan. The second figure was a woman that had short, straight lavender hair with a bun, amber eyes, lavender eye shadow, and a labrae piercing. She had a large light blue paper flower clipped on her bun. On her right middle finger was a ring with the kanji for white. The third figure was also a woman. She had onyx eyes, under which were long, pronounced tear troughs. She had jet black hair that was pulled back into a ponytail. His face was framed by center-parted bangs. Through the unzipped view of her cloak, she wore mesh armor with a necklace that had 3 silver rings with red gems inside them. On her right finger was a red ring that bore the kanji for vermilion. The fourth figure was a man. Th3 cloak covered his body as he had the hood concealing his hair with a orange mask with a spiral pattern focused around his right eye. On his right hand, he wore a purple ring with the kanji for jewel. The final figure was a plant, creature, thing. It had 2 sides of color, one white, one black. On its sides were Venus flytrap-like extensions enveloping their he's and's upper body like a shell. Its hair was green, short, and spiky hair along with golden eyes. It wore on its right finger a green ring with the kanji for sign of the boar. The masked man spoke. Zetsu, is this information accurate? The creature nodded. Yes, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki has been receiving help from an outside source. It nodded. How is this possible? From what Itako said, Konoha and its people despise the Jinchuriki and the Uzumaki clan head, who would assist them. This time it was the lavender woman who spoke. And that is still true. No one except for the Sandame and Inuzuka clan head care for them and would see their skeletons hanged and their skin burnt off. The now identified Uchiha spoke. The orange-haired male stayed silent, seemingly staring into space as if in deep thought. We have not been able to identify who this person is, nor have we been able to detect them. Why do we not move on their location now? The Rinnegan user finally spoke. Former Jinchuriki or not, Uzumaki Kushina will not stand a chance against me. Your arrogance shows greatly. Madara barked. The bun-haired woman glared at the masked man with a scowl. Pain is a god, a feeble woman such as the Uzumaki will not be a threat to him in the least. You clearly are stupid. Uzumaki Kushina survived getting a biju forcefully taken from her, stabbed by said biju, and then willed herself and her child to safety. The woman is on a level you will never grace and you should tread carefully when approaching her. The woman then glared at Zetsu at the shot at her intelligence. Then what is your plan? Pain now spoke. We're speeding up the recruiting process and waiting to make our move, we still are 3 members short. Why not just extract the 9 tails and eliminate a potential threat now? Conan questioned. Itako answered at this time, why risk early exposure to the world? They'll more than likely be around civilians or in a town and wiping out an entire town will draw unwanted attention towards us. We will do nothing for now, but should the Kyuubi Jinchuriki grow too strong, both her and her mother will be dealt with. Am I clear? With heads nodding at the table, Madara ended the meeting. Zetsu, monitor them. I want to know everything they do. With a nod, the plant being sunk into the ground. No one will ruin my chance to be with Rin-chan again.